World Mobile is one of the most exciting projects that's currently building on Cardano. In this video, I had the opportunity to speak with James Tagg, who is the chief architect at World Mobile. This was a live in-person interview that we had put together at Consensus 2022, and we're finally able to put this out there for you. I really do hope that you found some value from this video. Please do excuse the audio. This was a really unique setting, and we tried to do the best we could with the equipment that we had at hand. But I do hope that you enjoyed hearing about some of the things that James has worked on in the past and some of the really cool things that he's bringing to the World Mobile project. If you all do find some value from this video, please be sure to drop a like for me. Also, don't forget to check out some of the links in the description below. We had a great conversation and some of those things were referenced in the description, so make sure you check that out as well. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump right in. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. My name is Pritesh with KAIZN Crypto. Today, I've got a very special guest. This is a different style of an interview. We're doing an in-person interview here at Consensus 2022. Today, I'm joined by James Tagg, the chief architect here at World Mobile. Really excited to talk with you, James. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Very cool. So James, for our audience, could you give us a brief introduction? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a techie by background. I'm probably best known for being one of the inventors of the touchscreen. So that's the capacitive touchscreen that ended up in most mobile phones and bank teller machines. And if you buy alcohol from the bar, that's what they used over there.
Okay.
But I also made the first VoIP call on a mobile phone. So I've done quite a few things.
So you got a bit of a technical background.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you come across World Mobile?
I've known of Mickey for a long time, and he of me. We've bumped into each other through the sort of telco side,
Okay.
We got introduced by a mutual friend, again, as it were, about a year ago.
Sure.
And so I've been working with him for around a year.
Okay, interesting. So did you see something specifically about World Mobile and what they were doing? And, considering your background, right, you're a bit of a technical person. So what is it that interests you about what they're doing here at World Mobile?
Well, so this project, which is connecting the unconnected, right? I've been trying to solve this problem for 20 years. So I have a patent, I think it's run out now, from 2000, trying to use Wi-Fi. In fact, Wi-Fi hadn't actually been released at that time, so it was Bluetooth, to try and get the holes in cellular filled in.
Right.
So I've been on that mission for a very long time. This has been a lifelong, one of my lifelong missions.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I see some of the things that they're doing with World Mobile. It's like they're in Africa, right? They're providing internet infrastructure. You've got the Earth nodes, the Air nodes, the Ether nodes. As far as some of the hardware that's involved with it, you'd be the perfect person to ask about this. What are some of the things that you see in terms of, how they intend on bringing this technology to these billions of people? What is it that you see is going to make this something that's going to be possible for the everyday person?
We've got two problems to solve, right? So in cellular networks, you need to solve coverage and capacity, and sort of the handoff in between. So for coverage, we're using these aerostats. So an aerostat is cabled to the ground. It doesn't float around like the Loon project. So they're cabled to the ground. They're 300 meters high. You can just think of them as a super tower, really, really big tower. And because of the Earth's curvature, as you get higher and higher and higher, the horizon gets further away. So the horizon from 300 meters is about 110 kilometers away.
Interesting.
That's the radio horizon.
Gotcha.
So you can shoot a signal, a really long distance from one of these balloons.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, I think that because we were looking at some of the videos, World Mobile has put out quite a bit of content now just showing what are some of the things that they're doing in these places. And, you see these nodes that are providing not only the internet connectivity, but also electricity, right?
Yes.
They've got these solar panels on
Yeah.
top of them. And it's just, it's fascinating to think about how they're creating this technology that's going to provide more solutions than one.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you're making some electricity as well, because very often the communities that you're connecting have trouble with intermittent electricity. So you can export a bit of electricity to them so that they can power the laptops, charge the phones, and all of the things that you need to do.
Yes.
So that's really great.
So James, that's fantastic to learn about. And I wanted to ask you a question just to learn more about yourself and some of the things that you've accomplished throughout your experience and working with the technologies that you have. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're proud about in terms of the work that you've done across the years?
Well, the things I've been doing most recently, I did touchscreens, and then I did TruePhone, which is a worldwide mobile operator, so it operates in 8 countries. So I've done a big mobile play around the world.
Oh, gotcha.
Which gives me a good background for this project.
Yes.
And then during COVID, obviously it wasn't easy to go build networks. So I did a couple of interesting things. The first thing I did was to build some digital human beings. So that's
interesting. So like AGI.
Yeah, a bit like AGI. In fact, I spent quite a lot of time in Hong Kong with Ben Goertzel and David Hansen and so on. And so I was trying to build virtual digital human beings, whereas David Hansen's built the real sphere, the real right. So that's quite fun. And then I started doing kind of. So I did write a book called Are the Androids Dreaming Yet?
Okay.
Which is asking the question whether the human brain is a computer.
Are androids dreaming yet?
That's right. Okay. Available at all good bookstores.
Okay, I gotta make sure I check that out. Right, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in that, there's a kind of proposal that there ought to be a different type of computer, a different type of quantum computer. And so in the second year of COVID, I set out to build one, and so I built a quantum computer in my garage.
Wow. Okay, so you went deep down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Basic science, basic quantum mechanics. And it's a single bit. It's just one bit. So there's not a lot you can do with that computer, but you can do some quite interesting things.
That's fascinating. So you had mentioned that you had actually worked with Dr. Ben Goertzel. What was that experience like? Because we hear a lot about what he's doing with AGI and SingularityNet. What are some of the things that you may have learned from your experience with working with him?
I mean, he's a polymath. There are not many polymaths left in the world. So he knows the stuff about physics and computer science and all the mechanical engineering that's in Sophia and so on. So he's a great guy to talk about this sort of stuff. And I mean, his view is diametrically opposite to mine. Right? He believes that a computer will become, intelligent and conscious, and it's just a matter of building the right pieces.
Right.
And I think there's a physical break. That there's some physics that you need to change to make a human being, and we're not machines.
Exactly, to prevent some type of dystopian reality.
That's right.
In the future, yes.
So I have lots of, but he's a person you can have that friendly argument with, and he really knows the argument.
That's fantastic. So. Wow, that's fascinating. So you have quite an extensive background. I mean, you've really covered a lot of different areas with what you're doing. So I wanted to pivot a little bit back to World Mobile. So you've kind of given us an overview of some of the things that you've been working on. In terms of where you see the project, World Mobile, and the role that you've taken on within the project as the chief architect, what are some of the things that you see for the project maybe within the next 5 or maybe even 10 years?
Wow, 5-10 year horizon. So around half the planet, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, doesn't have cellular connection. Now, 5 to 10 years time scale is enough time to do that. Probably looking a few years out, we're going to start to get the high altitude capability as well. So stratospheric version. So our aerostats are only 300 meters off the ground, maybe 1,000 meters for the really tall ones. But we can also put them up and sort of let them go.
Sure. And
then they circle in a tight circle in the stratosphere. So that will happen probably 2 to 5 years out, that those will get good.
So in terms of your experience here, so we're out in Austin, Texas at Consensus 2022. James, what are some of the things that you've enjoyed about this experience? I know we were talking earlier about COVID and being locked down and it's being hard to network. But from your experience so far, what are some of the things that you've taken away from this?
Well, this has kind of been the first time to get together with people from, the industry, any industry, at an event and actually, do networking events and see things. So there's something unique about the in-person experience and the way that you communicate compared with Zoom and all the other sort of solutions.
Yeah.
So I think that's been good. And I mean, to go out for a dinner with everybody, you know.
Right, right. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you were mentioning, right? It's like you've got people from all over the world that are working within the project. Just to think that everybody's able to jump on a plane, meet up, see
yeah,
each other in person. So it's a great opportunity to continue to share ideas and continue to build as a team.
yeah,
I've definitely experienced that as well. We're always talking to each other on social media, right? Whether it's Twitter or
yes,
Telegram. So when we finally meet each other in person, it's like, hey, I know you. You actually get to put a face to the name, so to speak. So it's a great experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've enjoyed it.
So James, you have family. You come from. I can tell by your accent. Are you from UK originally?
Yeah, so I'm from UK,
Okay.
but I've been here in America for 5 years, and I did live in Boston for
Oh,
5 years.
interesting. Okay.
So this will be my third green card.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
And so probably this time I'll go through the whole process and become an American citizen.
Very cool.
So,
Very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, the situation right now with the world and how it's changed after COVID, it's fascinating. You go to these different places. This is actually my first time coming to Texas and seeing these places after all the lockdowns. It seems almost like things have gotten back to normal for the most part. Have you done much traveling aside from this, or not really, just because of the lockdowns?
Just before this, I did go over to the UK. My father died, so it was a funeral.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
He's 93, so that's a very good innings. So
Yep.
yeah, so that was the first time traveling over to Europe for nearly 3 years.
Really?
And then we went to the ITU conference in
Okay.
Kigali,
Oh, wow.
which was great. So I mean, I had visions of Africa from my experience of going to South Africa and Kenya,
Sure.
which is kind of when I last went to Kenya, the airport had burnt down. So we flew into
Oh,
Kenya,
no.
and it was tense. Yeah. So and Kigali is more like Beverly Hills. It's immaculately manicured, very, very tidy, very efficient.
Sure.
And it was like a shock. It's like, okay, so the stuff can be done right.
Yes, it's like a proper experience. Yes, very cool. Talking about that, so some of the things that World Mobile is doing is building out infrastructure in places like Tanzania, Zanzibar. What are some of the things that you've been seeing in terms of the progress that's being made there?
Well, just before kind of COVID hit, we put in a network with Wi-Fi and so on, and that was quite successful in terms of people being able to use it to transact and sell their fish and all the sort of do the things that you're able to do when you connect. And then now things are opening up. We can go in and put in the aerostats and the cellular infrastructure.
Yes, yes. So lots of balloons going up, right? So
That's right.
Very cool. Very cool. It's fantastic just to see the support from the community. So we've got the Earth nodes that are taking place right now. There's the auction currently going on. I think there's like 60 Earth nodes still available for the auction. So for our audience, it's a great way to support the project and, continue to see the growth of the ecosystem. And myself, I've also reserved a couple of those.
Oh, you have?
So, yeah,
You're a buyer.
Very excited.
Had to declare that,
yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see the growth of the project, just seeing how the ecosystem has evolved along with the community, and just to think that half of the world is still unconnected. Right?
It's a shock, right?
It
really is a shock. And there's some fundamental economic problems. If we had lots of time, we could work out the game theory. I haven't done it yet, but it's like, is it a prisoner's dilemma or what is it?
Yeah.
But effectively, once the population density for a piece of land drops below a certain level, and that's slightly dependent on whether it's sort of bumpy or whether it's flat,
yes,
it becomes uneconomic for a mobile operator to deploy, particularly if there are, say, 4 licensed mobile operators for that country, and they all have to deploy, right? If they all deploy, they're not going to make any money. So none of them deploy, because if I deploy and you deploy, then neither of us make money. So I sit there kind of going, should I do this? So you end up, with these national licenses. People have bought for, in America, billions of dollars, and half of it is unused, right? So half of it's unused, and it's never going to be used because it's uneconomic to do it. But you can't give it to somebody else. The regulator can't give it to somebody else because they've already licensed it to an operator. Or you know.
Okay.
So you've locked up half the spectrum in the world. And if you think about all of the aggregate spectrum licenses in the world, they must be $500 billion or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It's enormous. So you're thinking, you know, you've got this enormous capital asset that's being unused.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And just to think about the economic potential from each individual who
Yeah.
is being kept offline, right? I mean, it's fantastic just to think about the opportunities that are available, which leads me into my next question. It's a perfect segue. So World Mobile had recently announced that they've started their rollout in the United States. That's huge. I mean, I think that's fantastic, not only to see that they're tackling lesser developed parts of the world, but also the developed world and places like the US. What are your thoughts on how World Mobile is going to come into the US, and would it be a competition to existing ISPs, or do you think it might even provide greater value? Or what are some of your thoughts in terms of that?
So the US has the same sorts of problems as Africa, right? So 30% of the landmass of the USA is uncovered. 10% of people in America don't have internet connection. Now, it's not as bad as some countries in Africa, but it's still, you know, it's still a considerable number. So the problem is the same. The ARPU in America is considerably higher. So it's like, you know, $40 a month as opposed to,
Right.
you know, 2 or 3. So there's some differences in the economics, but the fundamental prisoner's dilemma type problem that we were discussing earlier,
yeah.
it's just the same, right? You get to a certain population density and it ceases to become profitable.
Gotcha.
America is interesting in that what happened is as the networks got built out in urban areas, it ended up being a bit of a Swiss cheese. So lots of little problems
Yes.
in America.
Scattered all over.
Scattered all over,
Yeah.
right? You cannot afford to put up an antenna mast to fill in my office and my driveway at home
Right.
where I live.
Right.
But those are 2 cellular black spots, right? And that's in California, you know, urban California. So the 2 things that we're looking at doing is the urban fill-in, and of course providing coverage to the, you know, grossly
More
unconnected
like rural areas.
in rural America.
Gotcha.
And then that's not. I mean, we're trying to avoid going into competition with the incumbent operators.
Sure.
Because they own this spectrum, so we have to work with them to say, look, let us use the spectrum that you're not using and fill these people in, and you know, partner with them and allow them to sell our coverage footprint to their customers. You know, America is unique because it's the first country that's actually got a spectrum sharing project that's fully up and running, and that's CBRS. So the old Citizens Band, which was you know, allowed you and I to chat to each other around the world, or actually across America, but had the same benefit, you know, digital dividend benefit that lots of things had. So as it digitized, you could reuse that spectrum more efficiently.
I see.
And so in America, what they decided to do is to auction half of it and open source half of it. And so you can release cellular in America without having to go and get a license.
Interesting. Okay.
And so that's what we'll be using to get started. But we are definitely looking to partner using the sort of the good spectrums at 800, 900 megahertz in the uncovered areas of America, using the aerostats to provide coverage.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Yeah, I didn't actually know that there was multiple different spectrums. So instead of it being a competition in that sense, it's almost like a collaboration.
Yes.
Right. You can actually use the existing infrastructure to help provide greater connectivity.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a unique industry, the communications industry, right? You look at, you know, computers, right? You buy an Intel chip or you buy an ARM chip, you can make all your stuff, you distribute, you never talk to each other. You know, there's absolutely you're just in these siloed competitions. Maybe you bump into each other at a bar, you know, a trade show once every year or 2, and that's it. Whereas in communications, every phone call I make, well, most of them will terminate on a competitor's network.
Sure.
So there's a lot of cooperation, and that tends to be the way that communications companies work. Every now and again we have a bust up,
Right.
But in general,
on the whole, yes,
it's cooperative with some boundaries.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's exciting. So James, I've learned a lot from our conversation today. I think that from some of the things that you have mentioned to myself and our audience, it's very exciting to see the path that World Mobile is on. I think that the future is very bright, especially considering how early we are to this blockchain and cryptocurrency space. And to think what you all are providing is the internet infrastructure to connect half of the world so that they can use some of these solutions. So it's fantastic to have you on the channel for this in-person interview here at Consensus in Texas. For our audience and all the people that are watching this at home, where can they go to find out more about you, some of the things that World Mobile has going on? Can you tell us maybe some of the websites? You had mentioned your book as well. Where can they go to learn about the book?
Oh, okay. So to learn more about World Mobile, that's worldmobile.io. That's the website, and then that will vector you towards the token-specific website and all the white papers and so on that you can go there. I did write a book.
Yes.
It's called Are the Androids Dreaming Yet?
So is it on, I'm big into audiobooks lately. Is it on Audible? Is it something I can listen to?
Okay. Audibleized it. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that would be a personal project. It's about 20 hours of audio recording to do.
And what was the name of it again?
Are the Androids Dreaming Yet?
Are the Androids Dreaming Yet? Okay, I'm gonna have to check that one out. That's exciting. Yeah, and then also for anybody who might be interested, we had talked about the Earth nodes. There's the auctions that are currently taking place for the remaining Earth nodes. I think it's like 60 Earth nodes remaining. So anybody who does want to support the project, I think that's one of the best ways that they can do that is, being an Earth node operator, helping to support the network. So definitely be sure to check that out if you all are interested. James, I really enjoyed our conversation today. I learned so much from these in-person conversations, and just want to say thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Yep, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you everybody so much for watching. Until the next one.